Well, hello everyone. This is Ahmad Mansour with SPR, and welcome to today's web meeting, May 3rd, 2013. I'm really excited about having you back on board with us today. We have a really exciting 90 minutes ahead of us, and we're looking forward to hearing what you've been up to out there in your respective states with your teams. And but before we move forward, I would like to first introduce you to Megan and the DOL team. Here you go, Megan.
Thanks, Ahmad. Hi, everyone. This is Megan Lizick, your federal project officer, one of your federal project officers, I should say. I'm here on behalf of our EDE team. Some familiar faces up there on the screen for you guys. Gina and Jonathan, unfortunately, are not with me today. As you guys might know, Gina is out on maternity leave. She had a baby boy a couple of weeks ago, so congrats to Gina. And Jonathan is out of the office on vacation. So I am here holding down the fort. While Gina is out, we also have a brand new member joining our EDE team, a new team leader. Her name is Jennifer Pirtle. She has been in a variety of roles around the Office of Workforce Investment here at ETA, and we're really excited to have her join our team and bring some of her expertise on some different projects, and especially her webmaster skills onto our team. And so she should be joining us and listening in today, so I know she's excited to hear from all of you guys. And we'll speak to you more in a few minutes. So I'll hand it back to you guys, Ahmad.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Well, I'm looking at the attendee list here, and we're up to 60 people. And I know that we probably had at least 20 people here online early. So it seems like that there's some excitement generated around this web meeting, and thankfully so, because we're really excited about hearing what's going on with you in the field and in your states, and we're excited as well. We think that the next month it's going to be fun, and we have a list of web events that we will be talking about later that's extremely engaging for all of us. So we're really looking forward to it. But before we get started, I first just want to let everyone know that we do have Kristen Wolf back, and she'll be facilitating today's web meeting with you all. You guys are all familiar with Kristen and some of the great work that she have done in engaging these conversations over the past year. So we're really looking forward to having her do this today. And also wanted to thank and introduce our SPR team, who's been working diligently at preparing for today and for the upcoming events over the next month. And that's Sam McCoy, Trace Elms, and Vince Kohler, as well as many other people who've just been working tirelessly on this project today. So before we move forward, would like to introduce you to just some of the basic instructions for today's web meeting. So today there are no polls. There are no polls today, so we're going to move right to the chat function instructions. Most of you have probably used the chat feature before. Well, let us quickly review it and see how it's used during this session. First, type your question into the text box, and then second, select who you wish to send your message to. The system defaults to the message to be sent to everyone, but then you can also click on the drop-down arrow to send the message only to a specific person. For example, you may choose to send your question to the presenter only. And finally, on the return arrow, or just hit or enter and send your message. It's that simple. We like to use the chat feature to ask questions throughout the presentation. And as you noted earlier, we we'll forward your questions to the individual presenters after the webinar. All right, so let's review the agenda. As you see, we have 4 areas that we would like to present today. First, we know that someone from all of the states was able to join the calls with Jonathan during the first couple of weeks to hear a little bit about the change in the direction of the project. So today, ETA will review the basics and talk about the direction for ETA over the next coming months. Also, Christian will review the activities we planned for today's event, as well as what we'll be doing in May and June, and also introduce you to a collection of resources that you can use in advance of the projects with your states. Thirdly, we will then do some sharing, and it will be at that fast-paced way that you all have learned to do on these webinars with us. And like I said, if you have any questions, we'll have an opportunity to have those questions answered today as well. And then finally, ETA will communicate some of the information you need to know to modify or manage your grants. So if there are any questions regarding any of these agenda points, please feel free to put those in the chat section. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Megan.
Great, thanks, Ahmad. So as Ahmad mentioned, we're going to start by just getting everyone back on the same page about what is happening with Expanding Business Engagement's revised strategy. You have all been with us every step of the road here as we've gone through some different hurdles and heartburn trying to get everybody convened in an in-person meeting. And you know, due to a variety of factors, we have not been able to do that, and we've decided to just move in a different direction so that we can continue maximizing the value of the grant and its resources for all of you guys, and particularly in the ways that we've outlined here in these bullets. I know that Jonathan and some of the other members of our EBE team discussed this with you guys and got your feedback a couple of weeks ago, and so thank you all for doing that. It sounds like you guys are excited about this new approach, as we are, and I think we can get some great things going and help support you in your continued efforts as well. Now, just a couple of follow-ups. I know he had some questions that he particularly asked you, and I wanted to reiterate that what we heard you guys wanted was a series of shorter, such as 1-hour webinars or meetings, and so, rather than a longer virtual event. And so that is what we have got planned for you over the next few months, and Kristen and the SPR team will go over that with you guys later in the presentation. And all of you also said you were open to sharing information about what you've been doing and your materials, and we're largely focusing on that in a report out format today. So like Ahmad said, not as many polls, but I know that we're really excited to hear from you and to give you the opportunity to hear from each other, an update about what's been going on over the last few months since we last encouraged that peer-to-peer connection in December. So the overview of the revised strategy, again, is laid out here in a couple of real simple bullets. We're encouraging the states to continue moving forward with your strategic planning sessions in the ways that you find most meaningful. Some of you have already told us a lot about what you're doing in order to do this, or have held meetings, and that's fabulous. For others, we're continuing to encourage you to hold your own in-state strategic planning sessions. And in support of these efforts, we are putting together a fairly robust online support package for you. Kristen's going to talk a little bit more about that today, and you'll see a lot of these posted up on our community of practice next week. So we're excited to put these out there. We're excited to give you the opportunity to use these and to continue moving your strategic work forward and hearing how the tools work for you. Also, we're going to be holding upcoming webinars in support of these efforts later in May and in June. And of course, our team here at ETA, our colleagues at SPR, and some other subject matter experts are going to be engaged to continue providing technical assistance. And again, stay tuned to hear more about this later today. Secondly, as part of this increased flexibility that we're providing to support your continued implementation of the EBE goals, we know that there may be some budget realignments, I think particularly in regards to the travel line item. I'll talk more about modifications later, but this is just to reiterate that we are here to support you in that area as your FPOs. And then finally, encouraging the upcoming peer sharing and mentoring activities that will begin in the second year of this grant starting in July. We've been working with SPR to put some design elements together on a toolkit that will build on not only our existing resources, but some of the information you guys are going to share today, and try to gather something that will be a great tool with promising practices from the system. So in light of this, I wanted to also reiterate that ETA is committed to the expanding business engagement goals as they were laid out in the original statement of work that you guys responded to get this grant. So here I've laid them out for you so that you can see them in print. Again, we're talking about helping enabling strategies, enabling policy or infrastructure realignment, helping you move forward on your performance metrics so that you can continue and meeting the needs of business customers or improve how you're doing this. Secondly, helping you guys identify some goals to do this, and thirdly, to make sure that this information is shared out and across the system. And to that end, we also have something exciting to tell you guys about today. I am going to talk through a little bit about it on behalf of Amanda Allstrand, and who is our acting administrator for the Office of Workforce Investment, and also on behalf of Assistant Secretary Jane Oates. We are experiencing some issues today. We actually had a fire in the Francis Perkins building, and so our offices are closed today, and we're having some other technical issues. So Amanda was going to come here to provide her support to you guys and to take some questions, and in lieu of that, because of the issues we've been having, I'm going to do it for you. But I can certainly take some questions at the end, and if there are further issues that you guys want to discuss with us and our EBE team, we're happy to do that. So what we're going to be sending you after this call is a letter from Assistant Secretary Jane Oates, thanking you and your team of professionals for your patience and understanding throughout this process. As we've worked hard to make the in-person meetings we hope to have a reality. We know that even though this has not come to fruition, you guys have continued to move forward on your goals, and we've been impressed by your efforts to execute on these thoughtful and meaningful goals in the best ways that you can. I think as EBE grantees, even responding to this initiative, you've demonstrated a commitment to enhancing business engagement within your states. And I, as your FPO, have seen this in your implementation plans and watched as you progress over the last 9 months in your goals. So under the revised plan that ETA has set forward, you know that we are providing your teams with expanded and additional resources to meet your goals. We here at ETA are excited about this reboot of the EBE initiative, and based on the feedback you guys provided last month, it sounds like you are too. So in addition to these new tools, James provided a letter that we hope that you will share with your teams. Jane has been kept apprised of your work under this initiative, and in light of the need for a revised strategy and the difficult fiscal environment that we are all operating under, she wanted to confirm her commitment to the goals of the EBE initiative and affirm her support of you and your team's efforts as you move forward. So remember, the EBE grants were never intended to be prescriptive in what services your states were providing to business, but how you were tactically assessing their needs and meeting their needs. So again, after the meeting today, I will be sending you this letter on behalf of Jane and Amanda. And I hope that this will provide some momentum to your team to continue striving to achieve your goals as we approach the end of the first year in this initiative and build momentum for the continued implementation and peer sharing that you'll do in the second year. So again, on behalf of everyone, thank you for all that you've done so far. We've seen evidence of your hard work, and we're looking forward to what is sure to be an exciting next few months under the revised EBE initiative. So if anyone has any questions for me, you can go ahead and chat them or put them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them now. Okay, I see a few of you typing in the chat box on the left. Thanks, Christina. We do too. And Karen, yes, I agree. I think it's a terrific idea, and I hope that you and your teams will benefit from this information and her support as well. You're welcome, Laura. Yep. We're excited about this. Tanya is asking about the summit, which I assume is the one in Atlanta next week. We don't have any other in-person meetings planned at this time. So, you know, from an ETA perspective, but that's not to say that you all aren't planning meetings, and we really highly encourage you. I know a few of you are planning to hold some kind of meetings or have already, so encourage you to kind of connect and leverage what you can with each other. Maybe you can even attend each other's meetings either in person or virtually. Thanks, Karen. We really appreciate your guys' enthusiasm on this retooling. Jeff in Maryland, yeah, that's a great idea. I know that Jonathan had set up one on our BSR LinkedIn account as sort of a subgroup. So I can follow up with him to see where that might already exist. But if you've got something in the works too, feel free to follow up with him too and see how you guys can connect those efforts. Okay, I don't see anyone else typing, so I'm going to hand this back to Kristen. And if you guys think of other questions down the line, Jonathan and I, your FPOs, are always here to collect those and to support you guys. So, Kristen, take it away.
Thanks so much, Megan. And hi, everybody. As Megan and Ahmad stated earlier, we've missed you all. It's great to see some familiar names in the chat box and also some new ones. We're just really happy to be in touch again, so thanks so much for coming today. So we have a host of things planned and some new tools and resources, as Megan mentioned, and we'd like to go over these briefly so that you know what you can access in the short term and then what will be coming down the pike in the next couple of months. So in general, a way to understand it is that the technical assistance will fall into kind of three buckets. And the first one is what we're calling the virtual support package. And the second one is sort of a collection of tools and resources, including a toolkit. And then there'll also be some events and activities. And so we're going to go over all these things in a little bit more detail. So you're all thinking, what is this virtual support package? I know you are. So here's what it is. It's a suite of tools, about 5 tools that we developed for you guys to use both in the course of your project and in the course of hosting your own peer learning events. I know when Jonathan and Megan spoke with you all, a lot of you are starting to plan these already. So the idea is we organized some of the tools that we had been developing for the In-Person Institute and sort of curated a collection of them for you to use in those events. And so you can think of it sort of like a foundation for a DIY institute. So the first of these tools is sort of 7 kind of, I hate to keep using the word tool, I wish I could think of another word, but they're kind of 7 planning tools and then a user manual so that, that provides instructions for kind of how to put them into play. And they're quite flexible, so you can use them in a number of ways. Some of them you've seen before and others may be new to you, but the goal is twofold. One is, you know, when these projects get started, and many of you have said that you've experienced this already, you know, everyone's got a set of goals and you proceed in trying to advance those goals, and then you try some new things, and at some point it gets a little muddy and people aren't quite clear. You've added some goals, you're not pursuing some things didn't work, and there's sort of a recalibration that's necessary. So some of the tools are for you to use in doing that, in kind of recalibrating your projects. And then the second use, as I indicated before, is it's basically a complete set that you could use to run your own about 2 to 3 day institute, boot camp, retreat, whatever you want to call it, that allows you to pull yourselves together and share ideas in the same way that we would have done that in the institute. The user manual includes both instructions and also the really practical list of things that you'll need, like, you know, sticky notes, markers, flip charts, that sort of thing. And it also gives approximate time, sort of time ranges that you need for each activity. So it should be pretty much plug and play. So that's what the planning tools and user manual is about. The next piece of the virtual support package is a pre-recorded tutorial, which is kind of the verbal equivalent of the user manual. So we walk through it, and we also show tools as they're being used, so you can see how a process lends itself to the output that winds up on the back end of a complete tool. So it's a spoken and slightly more animated version of the tool set and the user manual. And the third tool is a sample agenda. It's a version of the draft agenda that you saw before last fall when we were planning an institute, but it's a bit longer and it's annotated for planning purposes. So you can see sort of what's the exercise that is illustrated in each of the sections and why that exercise. So it's organized around a 2.5-day time period, but it's flexible. You could go shorter, you could go a little longer. And the document itself has some sort of, in the same way that we would have done idea sharing exercises and matchmaking exercises in an institute, it's got suggestions for those sort of complementary activities that go above and beyond the use of tools. So that's the third piece of the virtual support package. The fourth piece is a sort of a pre-event checklist. And we'll probably use a version of this in June. but it's just a sort of very short document intended to focus attention on the things that you'll most need to be ready for an in-person event or even a virtual event. So again, we'll probably use a version of it, and we've pointed you to ways that you can use it in the checklist itself. So that's the fourth piece. And then finally, our old friend, the companion guide, newly updated with the new links and content that are on the EBE page of the Workforce 3.1 site. So, that should be familiar to you, but the links in it, we just rechecked them and repopulated them last night. So it will be up to date, and you can use them to get where you want to go on the Workforce 3.1 site. So that's the virtual support package. The second sort of bucket was tools and resources. And what these are, they'll comprise sort of a toolkit, and we're looking for, it will include not just materials that we've developed, but also things that you're developing. So in a few minutes, as you may expect, we'll be asking you some questions. And we're looking forward to seeing the metrics and the dashboards and the things that you've been developing. So we'll sort of curate a nice collection of those, and then also, you know, we've been developing our own materials too, and we'll put them together in the form of a toolkit, amongst other things. There'll also be some effective practice profiles. We are working with our partners, the National Association of Workforce Boards, to talk to some states and communities known to have effective employer engagement practices outside of the project so that we can bring those in too, and some of them will be inside. I think Colorado's already been engaged, for example, and some others of you may be as well. But the idea is to reach outside and reach inside and develop a set of nice profiles that explain, kind of in a theory of change way, why a state or community launched a particular initiative, you know, what the intent was, what the most important elements of success were, and what the results were. So that's the basic idea. And then finally, we have not forgotten about the subject matter experts, and we've made arrangements with 7 of them in 7 areas of expertise. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a couple of slides, but they are also amongst the tools and resources. I also wanted to give you a glimpse of the evolving EBE site. So you can see here, do you see my arrow, Trace? Can you give me an arrow? I'm not sure if you can see my arrow. Can you see my arrow? Okay. So I'll just continue. This is the training curriculum that you may remember Melanie Arthur talking with you about at our, I think it was our December web meeting. It is now entirely on the business engagement part of the Workforce 3.1 platform. And you can see all the way over on the right there, it says EBE Grantee Technical Assistance. So we're going to go to that one next. That part of the website currently looks like this, but it will be where all of the materials that we're developing will be housed. So, so it's nice and fancy and brand new, and it'll be great. And then I also wanted to draw your attention, especially Jeff's attention, to the LinkedIn link that is sitting right near the search bar. That will take you directly to the LinkedIn community that the business engagement folks are all sharing. So if you wanted to connect your community just to that one, that would be a way to do it, or just go ahead and join that one. So anyway, so that's what the new sites look like. We're also planning to put all of our all the webinars that we've done and the PowerPoints that we've used to support them and the tools we've introduced, everything that we've done so far in the project will also be on this site and comprise kind of that last piece of technical assistance. So that is the new website. Oh, there it is right there. So you can remember how to get there. And of course, we'll be sending the PowerPoint out so that you'll be able to link directly to it. And then finally, the third bucket was events and activities. So this is what we're looking at in the next couple of months. It'll be a bit of a sprint. But as Megan already noted, and some of you were noting in the chat box, Region 3 will be having a Business Services Summit in Atlanta next week. So that will be May 8th through 10th. And for those of you who are attending, Megan and Ahmad will be there in person. So I hope that you'll be saying hello to them in person. I know they'll look forward to it. And then the next event that we have planned as a group will be the web convening on May 17th. And that one will focus on the SMEs. So we'll cover much of the how you get in touch with your SMEs and how that process will work during that time. But we'll also cover a little bit more of it today. And then during May and June, you'll be engaging the SMEs in the ways that we'll discuss in a few minutes. And then from June 3rd to 7th, we're planning a sort of a virtual learning event. As soon as we come up with a better name, we will be sharing that with you. But the idea is a sort of focused, concentrated few days virtually, where we'll work specifically on the things that you have prioritized throughout the project. And so we'll get some more information today from you to inform how that sort of rolls out. But we have some exciting things planned. We're very excited about that. You will not be spending all 3 days on the web, though we were tempted, but we wouldn't do that to you. So that'll be exciting, and we're looking forward to it, and more coming. And then finally, there will be a last web convening for all of us as a group on June 21st. So we'll be sending out, as we usually do, sort of reminders and invitations and whatnot, but we also wanted to give you kind of a full view of what to expect in the next couple of months. So that's what it looks like. So now I'm going to go back to the SMEs for just a minute. So as I noted previously, we have secured 7 subject matter experts in 7 different subjects. And so those are right here. And we will be devoting our May 17th webinar to explaining the process for how you get in touch with them. But on that webinar, we're going to do kind of it's sort of a pitch session almost. We're going to call it something like Meet the SMEs. Oh, no, I see Karen's email. The virtual learning event is scheduled at the same time that Colorado is launching its Professional Development Academy event. But we will record it, and that's why we have teams. So, Karen, maybe we can figure out some other people who are not essential to the Academy event to fit in. But otherwise, we will record it, and we will figure out a way to get you connected one way or another, so don't worry. But what we'll do is on May 17th, we'll have sort of a pitch session, and the SMEs will come on, and they will effectively share with you what problems they're good at solving and sort of, pitch their services to you. And then we'll have an electronic calendar where you sign up for time slots with them that they have made available. And then we'll talk about some of the ways that you can engage with them. So that's what you can expect on May 17th. We'll do roughly 15 minutes of introduction, and then roughly 45 minutes or so of the subject matter experts kind of pitching to you the value of their services and how they can help advance your projects. And then they'll hang up, and then we'll talk about how you get in touch, how you sign up for time, that sort of thing. So that's basically what it's going to look like. And now, and you knew this was coming, you knew that we'd be asking you to share and not just listen. So as we usually do, we've got some questions for you. So let's get started with the first one. And again, we'll use the chat box just below the slides. And if you wouldn't mind responding with the name of your state as well. Let's start by naming the top 3 issues you're working on in your EB initiative right now. And if you're with your teams, go ahead and take a minute to talk with your teams to come up with your 3. Otherwise, just go ahead and contribute as an individual. Again, naming the state that you're from. What are your top 3 issues? And we'll go ahead and give it a minute. Okay, I see some people typing. Yay! Thank you, Laura, for that contribution. Lots of interesting things, integrating technology, integrating services, and communication across platforms and partnerships. Great. We had a feeling that communications would come up again. And in Maryland, Jeff is working on metrics. We also suspected that would come up again. Also looks like some systems change and a different kind of team orientation. And okay, looks like Michael in South Carolina is working on small business outreach. Fantastic. And more metrics and standards and surveys. And it looks like, so we'll be eager to hear about Colorado's Professional Development Training Academy. And performance measures again. And Florida is moving forward with Salesforce.com and looking at new ways to track and report business engagement. Fantastic. And Minnesota and metric. And it looks like Minnesota is also moving forward with Salesforce.com. And training. For those of you, training was very big when we first started. I hope that those of you that have been engaged in training have been to the EBE site recently and taken advantage of some of the material that Melanie Arthur introduced in December. So New Jersey also doing Salesforce and Talent Advisory Councils. Great. And looks like pretty significant partnerships across state agencies in New Jersey as well. Looks like a few people are still typing. And also I see in the chat box that my partners have alerted me to the fact that I misspoke earlier, so I apologize. Ahmad will not, in fact, be in Atlanta. However, so that will be a loss. We'll have to figure out some other way to get folks to meet in person. But Melanie Arthur will be in Atlanta, so she will, I think, be doing some of her business service training in Atlanta, but she will at least be there in person, and so will Megan. So for those of you who are there, I hope you'll be sure and say hello. And thank you, team, for letting me know. And Megan is letting me know that that Melanie will, in fact, be doing a pre-conference BSR training, which sounds perfectly relevant to everyone on the phone. So thanks, Megan. Oh, and more comments coming in. More metrics. Okay, well, it looks like everybody's doing metrics, which is fantastic. We expected that would be the case and can't wait to hear more about it. And then more communications, marketing, branding, and evaluation. This is great. Okay, so those are fantastic. Thank you for your responses. So let's see. We'll move up. I'll give James another second here. Looks like there might be one or two of you typing. Branding and metrics. Okay, well, great. These are, it looks then like we were right on target in terms of thinking about some of the issues that you may be working on right about now. So fantastic. Okay, so we'll go to the next question. So since you're all working on metrics, and back in December, we figured this might be a big issue because back in December, you might remember we did a poll, and at that time, over 50% of you were working on metrics, and I think around 25% of you had already established metrics but had not yet put them in place. So you had them, but you were not yet using them to measure. So we imagine you're a little bit further now. And so what we'd love is if everyone could name one new metric, a specific metric that you are considering using or trying to figure out how to measure. So again, a specific metric that you are either considering using or trying to figure out how to measure. Great. Okay. So Steve, oh, so market penetration. Yep. And then Steve, I'm trying to remember where Steve is from. Steve, can you include your state next time? So we want to know where you're from so we can follow up. Okay. Oh, Oklahoma. Steve's from Oklahoma. Okay, great. So it looks like use and effectiveness are two big, employer use and service effectiveness are two big areas where people are using or putting into place metrics. South Carolina is doing employer outreach, employer served rate, employer served rate, number of positions filled rate. These are great. Okay, these are terrific. Number of repeat businesses. Thanks, Debbie, for that. I knew one state was doing that. Thanks for that contribution. And North Carolina is looking at return on investment by various services. Oh, that's interesting. Thanks, Laura. Yolanda's working on increasing the number of businesses that use the service, so that's a common one. That's great. And lots of people are typing now, so we'll just give it another minute or so. Maybe people are thinking. Oh, there we go. Okay. Another market penetration. Thanks, Tanya. More ROI. So this is great. A lot of you are looking at similar but slightly different measures. So there's probably a lot to be gained from sharing some of these. This is great. Just give it another minute. Okay. Oklahoma is going to contribute again, looks like. Okay, well, these are great. We will be following up with some of you. And yes, Steve, the notes will be made available after the webinar in some form. So yeah, we'll figure that out. We usually do that. We had been doing it as a contribution to the back end of the framework, but we'll figure out some way to share because this is great. And some of it will be turned into materials for the toolkit as well. So thanks so much for the contributions, everybody. Okay, so now we'll move to question number 3 is about dashboards. And if you remember way back in December when we asked about dashboards, about 2/3 of you were working on them, and a couple people had them. So we are looking for who has them now. And the upshot is we're looking for, what are the ways in which you visualize or communicate the measures that you're developing. So, we've called it dashboard. It might be a similar tool. You might call it something different. But go ahead and indicate what state you're from and indicate that you have a dashboard or you do not. looks like a bunch of people are typing now. Oklahoma does not, but seems very interested in what everyone else is doing. So, so everyone who's got dashboards, go ahead and let us know. James from Ohio, wanted, analytics and talent dashboard. That's great. Okay, so it looks like there's still a lot of interest in this, but we don't have a lot of examples quite yet. So we will likely be contacting some of you who have drafts or who are at a stage above looking. We may be contacting you to see what you have, and I'll just plead with you not to be shy about sharing, because sometimes the very early drafts can really help other states. So you know, don't feel like it has to be done. Everybody's working on this. It's a new area for everyone. And there's probably a lot that can be gained by everybody sharing, even at early stages. So thanks so much for those contributions. It looks like there's a lot of interest, and thanks for the humor too amongst those who put out a call. So we'll see what we can do to kind of rustle those up and get them shared around. Okay, so now we're moving to question 4. What is the most unique aspect of your EBE initiative? So this one, you know, we've featured a couple of people in the webinars, and we know that you were working on some really innovative ideas when we read your implementation plans and the results of your FPO calls. So we'd like to know, now that you're several months in, what do you think is the most unique aspect of what you're doing in the way of expanding business engagement? And if you're with your teams, go ahead and chat with them in person for a minute. You can take a minute before you respond. Seems like there's a lot of thinking going on, which makes me eagerly anticipate the responses. Oh, really? South Carolina. Looks like a lot of things going on the small business front. That's fantastic. And Ohio's using social media. Great. You'll be prepared for one of our upcoming questions. Looks like people are still thinking and typing. Okay, Employer Advisory, Talent Advisory Council. Great. Wow. Lots going on in Laura's neck of the woods. Merging of agencies, a new administration, new technology, new service delivery system. Holy Toledo. Oh, these are great. Employment advancement right now, huh? The statewide EARN grant, that's interesting. Lunch and learn workshops with business partnerships. Oh, and the Federal Reserve Bank. Thanks, Yolanda, for those contributions. And Michael and Jeff. There's lots of things your colleagues are going to be interested in, I'm quite sure. Looks like a few more people are still typing, so we'll just give it a minute. So it looks like a mix. It looks like some people their most unique aspects are kind of structural, and some people are experimenting with events, and then other people are advancing legislation or new programs. This is great. There's looks like there's lots of experimentation going on. Yay, okay. So thank you so much for that. And now we're going to move on to question 5. So this one has to do with the progress that you've made to date. So in thinking about the EBE project since you started way last year, what are your most significant accomplishments? And again, if you are with your colleagues, feel free to take a minute to discuss before you share a response. Otherwise, go ahead and contribute your response as an individual. So in thinking about the whole of the project, what are your most significant accomplishments to date? And that it in the question should actually be is, but sorry about that. So I see people are getting started. Thinking. Great, okay. Looks like partnerships and metrics have been big accomplishments, which is great. And again, you don't have to feel like your most significant accomplishments need to be done. They don't need to be finished. And also, they don't need to be big. As many of you know, especially those who work with IT systems, sometimes it takes so much effort to accomplish something that, when described, is small but makes all the difference in the world. So don't feel like it has to be something, like climbing Mount Everest. Sometimes things that seem small can be absolutely huge from a systemic point of view. Wow, great. It sounds like things are going really well in North Carolina, Laura. And the humor is always welcome. Thanks, Laura. Laura says, thank God it's Friday. But when you look at her previous comment and all the things they've been working on, you can probably have some empathy. I'm sure many of you are in the same boat. Wow. Yeah, see, Karen notes in Hawaii, in Colorado, sort of building the infrastructure for these things at a systemic level. It can be hard to describe, but it's so critical. Yeah, Karen wishes Hawaii. Sorry about that, Karen. Wow. Well, this is good. So this looks like kind of a mix of capacity building and training and sort of system improvements or new technologies, and sort of the hard work of building partnerships and talking to people face to face. It looks like that's a lot of your accomplishments fall into those buckets. It's hard work, isn't it? Let's give people a couple more minutes. Looks like there might be a couple more responses. Wow. Great. So Ohio's got live chat. I wonder how many other people have that. That's exactly the kind of thing I was talking about. It seems like such a small technical feature, and it changes the way people do business in just a fundamental way. Thanks for that contribution, James. Okay, so let's move on and go to question 6, which is an easy one, I think. What is the URL of the website that contains information about your initiative? So where can we find information about your EBE initiative or, content that reflects what you're doing? What's the URL? So that should be an easy one. And we did warn you that that was coming in the reminder. So thank you for people who brought it with you or who remember it. And if you have to go look it up, that's fine too. We'll just hang out and wait a second. Okay, looks like everyone's typing now, which is great because we all can't wait to go look at your websites. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Debbie and Laura. I imagine there might be a couple of people in that pause situation, so thanks for letting us know, Laura. And thanks for letting us know, Kay. And it doesn't need to be an EBE specific project site, but just sort of a site where the work that you're doing on business engagement is reflected. So it may actually just be your business services site, but where we could go and see the kind of work that you're advancing through EBE reflected online. Thanks, James. Thanks, Karen. And Jacqueline and Michael. I think I've seen Positively Minnesota as part of an ad campaign, Jacqueline, trying to recruit companies from Oregon, I think. Great. Thank you, Christina. So it looks like quite a few people are still typing, so we'll just give it a minute. I love this crowd. Everybody's got a sense of humor. It's great. Thanks, Kay. Okay, so it looks like it's slowed down a little bit, so we'll go to the next question. Okay, so Ohio might be the first one to answer this one, but we'd like to know where you share. So if you have identities, handles, URLs in social media, let us know what those are. And again, we did warn you that this was coming in the reminder, so I hope that that most of you brought this information. But if not, you could quickly probably look it up too. And if you have, if you know your Twitter handle, or it might be more than one, but if you have sort of a main Twitter handle or a main Facebook identity, go ahead and put that in. Otherwise, yeah, just go ahead and contribute that you do use those tools, and we'll go ahead and look it up. Thank you, Michael. Yes, Karen, we've run into this situation many times, county policies preventing the use of some of these tools. So one of the things we hope to be able to share is there's just a wealth of policies at this point for all levels of government everywhere about how to use these tools safely and effectively and in a way that protects privacy and also, you know, gets the job done. So this is great. So it looks like this is a high area of interest, and some folks are using these tools and some folks are trying to get the infrastructure set up so that they can. We'll just give it a couple more minutes. Looks like a couple of people are still typing. Oh, great. Thank you, James. Okay, fantastic. And for those of you who are looking things up, feel free to just go ahead and contribute, even if we're not on this question, because we'll just go back to the notes and look it up later. But I'm going to move on now to question 8. So, who are you working with? A real employer, not an industry, but an actual employer. So go ahead and name an employer that you are working with in more than a transactional way. An employer that you're seeking to establish a partnership with at some level, a specific one by name and where they're located. Great. And the fact that you were so quick to respond is also good news. You all probably have a long list. It didn't take long to think of one, so that's great. Fantastic. I'm not sure if Ken Messina is on from Massachusetts, but I'll hope that someone else from Massachusetts is on because I just have this great story. So I heard a snippet on BBC about an Egyptian man who owns a bagel store called Bagel Land in Winchester, Massachusetts, who will be donating 100% of the shop's profits from the time of the Boston Marathon until the last person leaves the hospital to the Boston One Fund. And I just thought that was so amazing. So I found the bagel shop online and sent an anonymous email to their info@bagelland page, never expecting to hear anything back. And immediately I got this lovely note back from the owner, Mr. Ihab Sadiq, who thanked me for reaching out to him and you know, told this great story about how this country has done so much for his family, and you know, and he was sure going to be sure and do his part to you know, pay back. And so I just thought that was so amazing that I have used my Facebook page and Twitter to drive everyone I know in Boston or anywhere near it to this bagel shop. So in case you are on the phone, Massachusetts, might want to visit Bagel Land in Winchester. Okay. All right. Great. So it looks like people have stopped for the minute. So let's. Jacqueline had a great suggestion. This isn't a question that we've built in, but if you could now use the chat box to indicate if you are going to the Atlanta training. So if you're going to the Atlanta training, go ahead and type your name and your state name in. Or if you're not going, but someone else from your state is, or someone who knows about EBE, go ahead and put that in so that you can all find each other. And we'll go ahead and make that available, that information available back out to the system. And so I should have been more clear. I'm sorry. So, so Jacqueline, when you say Minnesota, does that mean you're going? So for the folks who are responding, could you indicate yes or no that you will or will not be attending the Atlanta training? Sorry, I wasn't clearer about that. Fantastic. Yay. This well, looks like quite a few of you are going then. This is great. You're all going. This is fantastic. Okay, great. Wow. Okay. Well, sorry, Christina, I'm not going either. So we'll have to wave from a distance. Well, this is terrific. Great. So keep contributing names and states, and we'll go ahead and put them in a list and get them around so that you can be sure and meet each other. Fantastic. What a great opportunity. Okay. So we will move along now. And I'm afraid we just have a few minutes. So, so let's just do one quick story. We wanted to pull something out of the contributions you've made so far and give someone a chance to talk for a minute. So let's do South Carolina. South Carolina, if we unmute your line, can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're doing with small business? Tell us a specific example of what you're doing, how you know it's successful, and why. It might take a second, and you may have to unmute. Trace, can we unmute Michael from South Carolina? And Michael, can you unmute your phone? And Michael, in case you didn't see it, hit *6. Trace is indicating that you can hit *6, and then we'll be able to hear you. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Yay, there he is. Great.
Okay.
Michael, can you tell us a little bit about a specific thing you're doing in South Carolina with small business and how you know it's successful?
Well, we're doing, of course, we're doing business outreach. We've done a number of things with small businesses in particular because we've gone through LMI and done the data search and realized that 102,000 of the 109,000 businesses in the state are considered small. So that is our target audience. And a lot of cases, those businesses don't have HR departments, and so that's who we've been marketing to. We've done newspaper articles in some of our areas in which they had the highest unemployment rate. We've done radio spots. We have done telephone commercials. We've gone out with our business services teams, targeted, specific businesses, and we're tracking that and measuring that through our SC Works system, in which we can go in and enter activity codes and stuff like that, which is also helping to build our outreach, our contact percentages, and stuff like that. So, and also we've got SWIB boards, SWIB board members that are on board. I'm also on a small business engagement committee in which there are a number of members of our state workforce investment board whom most of them are business owners as well. So we've gotten input from them and looking at our ROI on how we're doing, and we've had some positive feedback, but we've got more to do. I mean, we've got a lot of work to do. We're doing what we can, but we can do more. So that's kind of where we are right now. That's why I'm doing the metrics and all these other ways so we can kind of measure how each of the areas are actually doing against each other as well.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that, Michael, and we'll look forward to hearing more about it.
Sure.
Okay. So now, thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. Everybody clap. Yay. It can always be a little bit, I ask you question after question, and sometimes I feel like, oh, are they going to stop answering? So thank you so much for hanging in. And now I'm going to hand the floor back to Megan, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the specific information you're going to need to know to modify your grants going forward. Megan?
Great. Thanks, Kristen. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, super. So now on to some sort of more technical, less fun stuff, but necessary information nonetheless. And I know that Jonathan on the feedback calls talked a little bit about this, so I think some of you have been thinking through whether or not you might need to do a statement of work or a budget modification at this point in time. So again, as we talked about, under the revised strategy, we're providing additional flexibility to spend the grant funds to advance your goals in other ways, such as through these local strategic planning sessions and some other activities, rather than spending or having the primary purpose of the $70,000 grant be on the state team travel to the Institute. So when you're thinking about whether or not you need to do a statement of work modification, consider what your plan is now. Do your current plans fit in with the scope of your original statement of work, the way that it's worded? So you want to go back and look at that document if you haven't already, and consider where you are now and think about that fairly literally. Now, remember, the intent of the grant remains the same. So we want you to keep advancing your goals by doing things similar to what you were telling us that you're doing, and maybe your plan hasn't changed that much, that your goals are still applicable, and you're still doing strategic planning in other locations, and it wasn't just going to be in DC, for example. So think about it in that way, and if you do decide you need to submit a statement of work modification, you can work with your FPO. I'll provide you a little more information on the next slide. But I would imagine that what might be more applicable is the budget modification. So again, given the fact that we are not requiring a primary purpose to be travel, you might still be traveling. You might be planning to do this in year 2. You might be going to the Region 3 Summit or doing other types of travel. But think about whether you are going to be spending what you've got in that line item, and if it's changing more than 20%, it will require a budget modification. So in order to do this, first, on a statement of work modification, you'll have to submit either a revised statement of work or a letter to your FPO, that's Jonathan or I, explaining the changes that you propose to make under the EBE initiative. And remember to demonstrate in that document that the adjustments you're requesting are in line with your original intent of the grant. As far as modifying your budget, again, remember all costs must be allowable and in accordance with the applicable cost principles. These are the OMB circulars and other parameters as specified within the EBE Grant Initiative Statement of Work. So if you have questions about this, please contact Jonathan and I, and we can work with you on a case-by-case basis, and also make sure that we're working with our grants office to make sure that we get you what needs to happen in order to support your efforts under our revised plan. And then finally, just a reminder that the quarterly reporting is coming up. We are suddenly into May, and both of the reports that I've got listed there are due on May 15th. The 9130 financial report, again, is submitted through those eGrants mechanisms, but the program narrative is emailed to your FPO, Jonathan or I, by May 15th. And then finally, talking about next steps, I wanted to reiterate one of the tools that Kristen talked about earlier, and that is that we have the complete BSR training curriculum now posted to the community of practice. So this includes webinars, facilitator guides, the individual standalone PowerPoint slides, as well as transcripts for all of the training modules that are out there. I know training, especially for the BSRs and other frontline staff, it's a huge effort in many of your states, and we want to make sure that you guys had all the information that you needed in order to, go forward and do the training, be consistent, give those messages. All the modules are customizable, like Melanie talked about a few months ago, and they're also they're all intended to stand alone. So if you go in there and you see one that is a topic that you'd like to discuss, but it's a level 2 or 3, and you worry that if you don't watch all of them, it's not going to make sense, that's not the case. They're off the shelf, they're really user-friendly, and They're out there, they're posted. I've got the link there, so please go and check that. And then next week, we do plan to have all of the EDE resources up on that updated tab. So I think there's going to be a lot happening with the website. It'll be a really dynamic resource in the coming months, and stay tuned for upcoming event notices on that and other things. So let's see. One more note, one more personal note, I guess. As I mentioned earlier, our offices in DC are closed here today, and due to some electrical wiring that they're doing, I'm not going to be able to send you Jane's letter today, unfortunately, but I will make sure to do that first thing on Monday so you can move forward with that. And hopefully that's going to be an exciting piece for you and your teams. So Kristen, I'm going to hand that back to you now.
Sorry, I was on mute for an extra second. Thanks a lot, Megan. Okay, so it doesn't look like there were too many questions that that people were asking, or we were sort of answering questions all the way along. But I just want to give people another chance to ask questions if there are any. So we'll just watch the chat window for a minute. Will the Atlanta sessions be posted online? Good question. Let's find that out. Megan, do you happen to know?
I would imagine that they are going to share them in some way, although I don't know at this point in time what their plan is. But Karen, I will take that as a follow-up and get back to this group.
Great. Okay. We'll just give people another minute or so. And then we're actually a few minutes early. So we'd like to encourage everybody. We'll keep watching for questions here, and we'll be on the line. But also would like to encourage anybody who wants to continue to chat with each other to go ahead and do that. Looks like there might be a couple more questions coming in. Okay. How about that one? Do you know that one, Megan? Melanie Arthur's materials are copyrighted. Are there restrictions that might apply to states that want to use them?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I know they are an ETA resource that are intended to be customized, but I will follow up and double check on that as well.
Yes, Jacqueline, we will send that out on Monday. The list of, Jacqueline is asking, will the summit attendee list be available today or Monday? So we will go ahead and send that out on Monday, along with some other materials and probably like a quick thank you for participating in the session. So we'll get that information out to people. Okay. And Megan, Christina's asking about the timing of a budget modification request.
Sorry, I was typing notes on the last question. Let's see.
No worries. Christina's asking about the timing of a budget modification request.
Well, if you do think you need to do a modification, we're going to want to get those started as soon as possible. The SF 424A is a standard form that's out there that you can start reworking, and there is no template for what the budget narrative needs to look like. You guys all submitted one when you applied for the grant, so if you have that one, you can go ahead and modify that one. Otherwise, Jonathan or I can send it to you as well, or you can do a new one, whatever works best for you. And Karen, know that the mods are not due before May 15th. We just want to start getting them in the pipeline as soon as possible because as many of you are aware, especially, you know, this is many of you, this is not your first time having a grant, so we need to go through a number of different processes on our end with the grants office to make sure that everything gets up into our system. So lots of back-end work that needs to be done, but in order to get that started, we need the documents from you guys.
And James, yes, a copy of the PowerPoints from today will be available together with a recording. We will get that to you promptly. And Megan, there's a few other questions about modifications. I'm wondering whether it makes sense for us to collect them and get them to you, and then you might respond in an email to everyone on those questions.
That sounds perfect.
That makes sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Kristen.
Sure thing. Okay, yeah, so we have another modification question. Yeah, so we'll just get you we'll get you all these questions, and then you can respond all at once. So we'll just hang out for another minute or so and see if there's any more questions. Looks like there's a couple people typing still. Okay, Tanya, we'll go ahead and contribute that question to Megan, and then she'll get back to everybody. It looks like there's 5 or 6 questions that are at varying levels of specificity, so she'll write back to everybody on some of those budget modification questions. So it looks like we've reached the end of our time, and this was terrific. So thanks so much, everybody. Really, really appreciate it. Can't wait to continue doing these. We'll look forward to talking with you again on May 17th. And don't worry, Karen, we'll record that one for you too. And we'll be sending information to you promptly, both an invitation to that to the May 17th call and and the follow-up from today's session, and then several other things as well. So thanks, everybody. And we're going to go ahead and leave the platform open. So if you'd like to chat with each other, go ahead and do that.
Also, Kristen, I just would like to add that over the next months, we'll be going hot and heavy, and we're looking forward to it. And if you have any questions, our numbers are up on here. Please feel free to call or email if there are any specific questions that you may have as we're engaging you over the next couple of months. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody.